A BB Fahodier family. Like to welcome everyone to a quick discussion. Shout out to the Black Tax Collective. All the work that I do is a representation of the Black Tax Collective and what we hope or what we want or what we aim to do long term. So we get right to it. There's a lot to talk about. Actually, let's go here first. Start everything off with an African proverb that I do. So I guess this should be no different. Hardship reveals personality. Swahili proverb, which is an African proverb. And the discussion that I'm going to have with you all, or the things I'm going to talk about, are going to reveal the type of characters that reveal themselves during times of hardship. It's easy to play the good guy when everything's good, or it's easy to play a good captain on calm waters. Let's go back to another African proverb there. So when the waters are calm, any idiot will look intelligent. But when those waters start to rise and get uncalm, that's when we find out not only who has the skill, but who has the heart and where your loyalty lies. What are you willing to do? How much are you willing to bend? And we must recognize this is something you're going to hear me say a lot now. I would refer people to the Irritated Genie's page on his videos on what he says the African fight for survival is, but he's been removed from YouTube. So try to catch him on social media while you can, because they are trying to remove any conflicting voice that's focused on the word. And this is the biggest battle of our lives that will continue generation after generation. What is the battle? It's our goal. Our battle is to reach our goal. And anybody that's in our way, we must go to war against to reach that goal. Our goal is total liberation, which includes control of land, control of culture, control of resources, control of education, control of the economy, and control of destiny. And destiny would include justice, as well as anything that involves life. So injustice involves life. So we want to be in control of justice, land, culture, resources, education, and economics. And we are unable to do that up under the knee of white supremacy. So this is what we must stay focused on. And as we stay focused on the goal of total liberation, we will see the persons who are focused and those who are not. So I figured I'd put together some behaviors that we will come across on our road to a BB Fahodier, or on our road to liberation, total liberation, not partial liberation, temporary liberation, reform, but the real deal. Okay? So the reactionary is a type of character we will come across on our road to liberation. And what are reactionaries? Only responds to issues that are reported in the media. They ignore the entire plight we face as they tirelessly fight battles reported by big media. They allow themselves to be easily manipulated whichever way the media chooses to pull them. Their reactionary approaches also come with an attitude that wants immediate results, even though they have only dedicated time to staging peaceful protests. designing signs for marches, and in the worst case scenario, looting. This attitude of expecting instant gains from minimal effort makes them susceptible to sham progress, sham movements, and meaningless tokens. And I put all of those things in there because this is what we've been seeing in the media recently. We've been seeing a lot of signs designed. I mean, I'm pretty sure Hobby Lobby is popping right now. A lot of signs are being designed. We have peaceful protests after peaceful protests. And then you also see looting, which is, again, it's a double-edged sword. I'm not mad that capitalism is receiving blows in that particular manner, but I also know that the way that capitalism is set up, the only people who will really be hurt in the long run are those who live in the areas that are being burnt down. Now, if we were burning down areas where we don't live, where we don't shop, where our elderly don't get their medications, now it wouldn't be that much of a double-edged sword. But when you're burning down certain things from reactionary tactics, non-organized moves. Now, if these were strategic strikes, that'd be a different story. But that's not what's going on. We have a lot of reactionary things going on, and a lot of the reactionaries aren't talking about reparations. They aren't talking about getting any land. They aren't talking about culture restoration. They aren't talking about black economics, because you can play dead all you want, as you see our sister is doing here. And these are old protests. This is an older one where she's playing dead, but I'm pretty sure people are playing dead somewhere. They've been doing that for a while, and there's no proof that that is an actual solution. And we go to the controlled next. Now, the controlled aren't necessarily reactionaries, because the controlled aren't going to leave their home. So I will give the reactionaries some credit, because it does take some courage to do some of the things that they do, to stand out, to get maced in the face, to lay down in the middle of the highway. I mean, it does take some courage to do that. But when you don't do it consistently, and you're only doing it in regards to media stories, trending topics, then it's not helping the fire long term, so to speak. So we go to the controlled. The controlled are not reactionaries. The controlled are exactly what their name says. They're controlled. Those who wholeheartedly believe anything as long as it comes from politicians, celebrities, priests, pastors, reverends, even though the proof is telling them to do otherwise. They can also appear to be assimilationists or integrationists. However, they aren't marching or protesting. They go with the flow created by the dominant society. Eventually, the controlled take a position of defending the dominant society's structure or lack thereof. They will also defend negative character traits developed within the context of oppression. The control may exhibit pride for black culture, but what they call black culture is actually fabricated and controlled by Europeans, Asians, or Arabs. The controlled are unconscious of the fact that they are being controlled, because they assume they are in control. So these are your people who watch the news and say, why are they burning down their own neighborhoods? They don't even attempt to understand the logic, or what you need to do is get out and vote. You know, that's another one. That's why we have the wolf and that may even be a lion. It could be the fox, but it's normally supposed to be the wolf and the fox here. And we have the sheep. We have these elders who are standing around for Hillary Clinton as if she isn't a murderer. Now, that's an old picture, but these are the baby boomer generation people that we've been dealing with, okay, of being controlled. And again, the control run a thin line with reactionary. See, there's a blurred line between being a reactionary being controlled and being assimilationist / integrationist, because integrationists are reactionaries to an extent. But a lot of your integrationists and assimilationists are more consistent than a reactionary. And that's why they're able to, a lot of times, co-opt movements that are rooted in reactionary tactics. So your integrationist, assimilationist is already established. And that's who we're talking about. People who dance and shuffle. You know, they're not, I'm not going to say they're uncontrolled, because they're trying to get into the devil's house, and they don't see the logic in anything other than the devil's house. So assimilationist / integrationist / reformist, because all of those things are the same. And again, it's a blurred line of reactionary, but a lot of your assimilationists, integrationists, and reformists are not reactionary. Those who want to contribute to the advancement and the protection of white global dominance, while at the same time not supporting or seeing the value of Black economics, Black controlled culture, Black educational institutions, or anything that will liberate our people. These individuals may dress in African clothing, have degrees in Africana studies, have natural hair, and or have African decorum in their homes. However, they will place African liberation below being accepted by whites. They will also be militant protesters and activists. However, their militancy, protest, and activism will be centered around white acceptance and racism rather than African liberation. And when I say centered around white acceptance and racism, there is ways to discuss racism to where you're only talking about fixing white people, not uprooting what racism has implanted, such as an imbalance with the wealth. So you just want to talk about, oh, I don't like it when you say you people, or I don't like it when you come at me like I'm the representative for anything Black, or have I heard this new rap song? That's one thing. You know, that's that. I don't like the way you make me feel as an individualist racism. And a lot of people cater the way they talk about racism to white acceptance. And they don't talk about it in a way to where you're promoting separation and how you need to protect yourself from the technology that your people have been under consistently since you encountered white people. So that's your assimilationist. You have people like Terry Crews, who just recently said something about, you know, having all Black marches is Black supremacy. That mindset is a sickness of where we think we must be reformists, we must be integrationists, and we must be assimilationists. And a lot of Black revolutionaries don't like to read the Bible, but it's a good story to refer back to when it comes to revolution. Moses did not promote segregation or integration. He didn't want to live in the devil's house. He just wanted Pharaoh to let his people go. That's the type of mindset we have. That doesn't mean that we're thinking about being Black supreme. However, if we go away from them and we rise higher than them, that's not something to be ashamed of. And that's not something we should deny ourselves of either. Because to be honest, white racism has held back not only Black people, but humanity. As far as we know, we could have traveled at light speeds decades ago. But there was a known century, to where we weren't able to read, write. And if we were caught doing those things, we could be killed, severely beaten, teeth knocked out. It's just, nobody has to live amongst these people. There's no writing in books that says you must live amongst your enemy to be better. Or not wanting to live amongst these people means that you hate them in a way that you're trying to destroy them. Let me rephrase that, because hate is not in our vocabulary. It's not even something we're thinking about. We're thinking about restoring ourselves, Sankofa. And when we came encounter with them, we weren't around them. And that's when we had a better chance of speaking our languages, of advancing our technologies, having strong families, not reforming the devil's house, not integrating into burning houses, not assimilating with persons who don't even respect us. So we have the narcissists, those who are all about the promotion of themselves, no matter how much it costs the community, morally, economically, mentally, or health-wise. Their main goal is to uplift their own egos, to enrich their own pockets, to gain sexual relationships, and to lead their followers off of a cliff. Narcissists are easy targets for the enemy when they are looking to recruit deceivers and traitors. Narcissism is a character trait that is of no value to any people seeking liberation. And I showed Silly Billy Porter, because your LGBTs, your black LGBTs are caught in narcissism. And a lot of them, I don't think, understand that. But I think more often than not, such as your Billy Porters, they do. And they will use times for when black people are speaking out to talk about things that are not holding back anyone. They're all individualistic, narcissistic issues. So you see black people coming together, and you really don't like black people. Not if you're married to a white man. You got to have some underlying issues for black people to use this time to speak out about how black people treat black gays, when black people are talking about reparations on the table, land, trying to highlight police brutality. There is no video after video of black gays being tortured in the black community. There's just, they just don't exist. Now, there may be fights that exist, but black gays are not walking around in fear. And for this is a narcissist twist to where they say things like he said, we're like white supremacists, or similar to the Klan, if you want to compare it to how we do gays. We're not riding around looking to beat up black gays. We haven't burnt down any black gay clubs. We haven't attacked any pride parades. A lot of people are just using their narcissism at this point. There's another person who, again, the LGBT, the black LGBT community right now has to deal with narcissism, because that's what you're dealing with when you're talking about racism. When we're talking about racism and you're using that as a chance to talk about how you're being treated for your choice in sexual preferences, and you're married to a white man. That in itself is a contradiction and a conundrum and an oxymoron that makes no sense. Silly Billy Porter. So we go to the traitors. You know, you have your narcissists, and Billy Porter can't be considered a traitor. Silly Billy Porter never did anything for black people prior to this. So, you know, you have a lot of people who are for black people, and you have some track record of them. And then there's a point to where you could be like, hey, man, you sold us out. Silly Billy Porter can't sell you out. The only thing he can do is stroke his own ego. Any light the whites give him is all for his own personal gratification. He does nothing for the black community. He's not out here wasting any of his gay moments to help anyone. So we have the traitor. Those who at one point may have had good intentions for the people, but either through fear, coercion, or greed became a tool for the enemy to use against their people. Traitors will allow their personal emotions to interfere with the greater good of the people. Traitors can be celebrities who misrepresent African causes, black politicians who abuse black voters, religious false prophets, black police officers who pledge allegiance to be blue, and black teachers who don't teach, to name a few. So just think about that. You have teachers who sit in these black teachers who sit in these classrooms full of black students, and they basically just allow for them to sit there and get ready to be fed to the wolves. And they're getting paid. That's treasonous. That's traitorous. And I'm not going to be under the impression that every teacher started off wanting just to get paid. To want to teach kids, you would have to have some good intentions, I would hope, at some point. Unless your whole intent was to make sure we didn't learn what we needed. Then we go to, you have your Al Sharpton. He's not what we need. He's for that integration. And all of these people can still be, they wear multiple hats, but there's a point to where you go from for the people to leading the people to the wolves. All right. And then you walk a straight path away from the devil's house. You look at these clowns here wearing kente cloth because they know the real movement has shifted. It's an African-centered focus amongst our people. They know this. They know that we're more that we're more African than American. They know this. And they don't want us to recognize it to the point to where we remove ourselves all the way out of American politics. Because the Democrats is the last stance. The Republicans already let us go. The Democrats have been pimping us for a while and getting big money off of us while we've been going to prisons in their districts, getting gunned down in their districts, getting high STDs in their districts, high medical issues in their districts. So cats out the bag right now. We go to the deceivers, also known as a blackface on white power. It's the conscious act of playing on the emotions of black people to gain our sympathy or support, just to abuse the support or sympathy. They will join organizations to destroy them. They will create conditions to separate the black man, woman, and family, whether it's through lies, attempts to turn them out sexually, or by perverting their values and morals. Okay? And I use this example. I don't know how popular this guy is, but he obviously has something that has over 100,000 likes, and it's rooted in deception. And I'm going to point out multiple deceptions. So you have someone who attended a protest for a black man being I'm guessing being brutalized by police. Now, this is the issue that we've been experiencing. Black people have been being brutalized by the police. So you go to a Black Lives Matter rally, which is a gay rally in disguise. I don't care what anybody says. That's their intentions. And this is how you know. You get there, and he said, I'm going to read his words. I protested today in New Orleans. We chanted Black Trans Lives Matter, Black Queer Lives Matter, All Black Lives Matter. As a black queer man myself, I was disappointed to see certain people eager to say Black Lives Matter, but hold their tongues when trans and queer was added. I want to reiterate this sentiment. If your revolution does not include black queer voices, it's anti-black. Let me just nip that in the bud right here and show you. This man has a white mother on Mother's Day. We go to Happy Mother's Day. I'm separated my mama today, like a lot of us, due to the quarantine. But his mother is this white woman in the middle. Another Joe Biden tactic to where people sit back and tell you you're not black, and they're not even black. Bruh, your mom's not black. So you're not black. And you're in no position to say that a movement is anti-black because people are uncomfortable saying trans lives matter. Like, people don't even agree with that. They're not saying that lives don't matter. They saying, what is this trans nonsense? They don't agree with that being thrown into the mix, because you can look it up. I want to say less than 4 trans die a day around the world because of violence, trans on trans violence. And all of that is not even rooted in hate crime. So it's nothing like what we're experiencing. And for these to even be the chance during a time where we need reparations, land, culture restoration, education restoration, revolutions. You're talking about your sex and what is anti-black when you're sitting up with the white mother. I mean, this is just the things we got to deal with. And what makes it worse, he is in no position to say anything like that to white people. He can't say a white movement is anti-white if it doesn't include trans and this and this and that. He can't say that because he already knows he's not white by him being biracial. But he has the gall to feel that he can deceive black people, even though he knows he's not black. He knows it because his mother's is white. His mom is white. So he'll deceive you and tell you what's anti-black as if he's black, as if he qualifies to give out those cards. So we go to the revolutionary. Revolutionaries are those who have chosen to fight a consistent battle until they reach their goal, which is total liberation and control of our futures. Revolutionaries don't expect, want, or need friendships, jobs, political office, aid, and acknowledgement that their lives matter, sexual relationships, or rewards from the enemy. And in the event that a revolutionary is employed by the enemy, the majority of the earnings will be used to advance revolutionary causes. Revolutionaries are women fighting for men and men fighting for women. Not all revolutionaries result to violence. However, all revolutionaries should know, and that they should be aware, that our enemy is war hungry, and violence is the only language they ultimately understand. They in the long run, that's all they understand is violence. So we must think about revolutionaries, persons who are summoned to do that work that is needed to get our people over the threshold. Your Kwame Toure's, your Marcus Garvey, these revolutionary minds that teach you to love yourself. Even Elijah Muhammad might not consider himself a revolutionary, but he's a revolutionary on so many levels. He revolutionized religious sectors for black people, took them out of being Christians and brought them into being black Muslims. Revolutionized the way they ate, revolutionized the way they treated themselves, they dressed. Women was covering themselves. Men praying 5 times a day. It's so many things that he brought to the table revolutionary wise that can be viewed as revolutionary. And he can also be put in another category that I'll be speaking about next. But the revolutionary has to dedicate their time banging on the beast. And all of that innovation will be used on tools that we'll use to bang on the beast. That's their existence. And we need revolutionary art right now. So I use the work of Emory Douglas because we need artists, not just visual artists, but poets. We need musicians, as well as rappers, singers. We need dance. We need revolutionary content of all sorts. So we need revolutionary media. So we do have that to an extent, but we need more black people watching revolutionary media, funding revolutionary media. So it's on 24/7, like the Confuse the Negro Network, CNN, those type of things. It's what we need. So we need artists drawing revolutionary art that keeps our mind focused on the prize, that highlights the battle, and that doesn't keep us focused on distraction conversation, deception conversations, narcissism conversations. We should already know if it's coming through this media, it's a deceptive conversation. Mainstream media doesn't want us talking about reparations, retribution, land, black businesses, a black tax, which is the name of my organization, but something to where black people put money towards something, a black tax to where it comes out of all of our checks or some sort, and it goes to a bureau, and that money is used to build institutions, military programs, better business bureaus that protect businesses and consumers, black businesses and consumers, all of the things that we would need for nation building, as well as to create money to lobby for the government to give us what is rightfully ours, which is these trillions of dollars. So, and it's way more than what the former owner of BET is talking about. And he should have been using his platform because it's nothing new. He should have been using that BET a long time ago to talk about reparations nonstop. But I don't want to beat him up because I don't know what were the barriers. But I know nonstop we had plenty of Rap City videos, 106 in Park. What else did we have? The dude with the green eyes, all of those things. But we need consistent conversation of what we need. So your revolutionaries are the ones who are going to bring in the real change, not what the Black Lives Matter are bringing in, not what the NAACP is bringing in, not even what the Urban League is bringing in. Literally, some buildings may have to burn. Some statues may have to get their heads knocked off. Some things may have to be thrown in the Hudson River. But I've also seen pictures to where they were gently lifting statues with cranes and nicely, neatly putting them in on trailers and taking them to storage. That's not revolution. That's some of that trickery. When they came and took our ancestor thing, they pillaged it, they smashed heads off of artifacts, and whatever they didn't want to smash and destroy, they took it with them. They didn't leave it with us. So we need to have jurisdiction over what happens to the statues and the monuments, especially the biggest one, Mount Rushmore. We need jurisdiction over what happens to that. And lastly, let's talk about the evolutionary. Evolutionaries have the task of eliminating the need for revolutionaries. Revolutionaries are summoned to fight oppressive situations. However, the evolutionists' entire existence is to evolve past oppressive conditions by innovating society before progress stagnates or tempers flare. The evolutionists are children and grandchildren of revolutionary times. They understand revolution is healthy for liberating oppressed people, but not as healthy when it comes to advancing oppressed people long term. Evolutionists will imagine, design, and build societies that aren't structured around responses to oppression. Their ideas won't be rooted in pacifism, racism, outside acceptance, vengeance, or rightful rage. Their ideas won't be rooted in that. And this is how we will build marvels of the world, such as pyramids, and travel light years at light speed. So you'll need evolutionists And we haven't actually made it to that point, but that's where an Elijah Muhammad was trying to get our people to. If you were eating to live, if you were living in accordance to the message to the black man, things of that sort, you'll be on an evolutionary. You won't have to evolutionize anymore. You don't got to change your name once your name is changed. You don't have to have the X on your name no more. Your grandchildren shouldn't, because they're going to have a non-slave related name. Those are the evolutionary things that revolutionaries had to focus on their whole entire life. The evolutionists, the grandchildren, the great-grand of the revolutionaries, they don't have to worry about slave names, not eating slave foods, not having slave sex habits or slave appetites for politics, for knowledge, all of those things. An evolutionary will be rooted in those things that their revolutionary parents and grandparents fought to have, fought to see brought into fruition. And their great-grandchildren, I mean, we still will have our warrior class, but they will be more focused on evolving versus solving the blows of oppression. So when there is no failing school system to address, there's always a school system to address. But it's, instead of reforming it, you'll be evolving it. So instead of having desktop computers, you'll have computers that are in thin air, something different, so to speak. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Just the type of characters that we were going to experience on our road to liberation, with the ultimate goal being evolutionaries. Because again, there's just certain things that the evolutionary is going to think about that revolutionaries won't be able to think about, because we're too busy banging on the beast, innovating ways to bang on the beast. Now, once the beast has been beat back and banged on, our revolutionaries still will implement ideas for our people to use, but the evolutionary can now build institutions that are rooted in exposing oppression or exposing lies or wasting time erasing things that should have never been there. The evolutionary will have bright eyes, unmolested minds to work with, to deal with. And that's all I want to say on this presentation. So we can go back just to end it off with the goal. Control of land. Because we don't want to forget our focus, because you got people like Silly Porter, Scary Cruz, and all of these other folks trying to get you to have sideline distraction conversations. These are the only conversations worthy of having. Total liberation. Control of some land. Control of our culture. Control of some resources. Control of education. Control of our economy. And ultimately, control of our destiny, which includes justice. Because you don't control your destiny if you're dependent on someone else to hand out justice. If you're dependent on your enemy to admit that they're your enemy, you don't control your destiny. We must expose what needs to be exposed. We must get what needs to be had. We must come for what's ours. A BB Fahodier family signing out.